Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. In ancient times, giants walked upon the face of the earth. Although many still resist the idea, the evidence cannot be ignored. Hundreds of myths spread across all cultures and regions of the world mention the existence of these colossal beings, whose height ranged from 10, 13, and even 16 feet. The Holy Bible not only mentions their origin, but also confirms their presence and details various races of these giants. Among the most notorious biblical figures, we find Goliath and Og of Bashan. But what few know is that Goliath was not alone. He was part of a lineage of giants that included his 4 equally formidable brothers. In this video, I will explore not only the story of Goliath, but also that of his brothers, unraveling the mysteries behind this race of giants. If you are unfamiliar with these fascinating origins, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, and give us a like. Stay tuned for this intriguing investigation into the hidden origins of Goliath's race of giants and his 4 brothers. The race of giants to which Goliath and his 5 brothers belonged was known as the Rephaim. The truth is that the Israelites had already encountered these colossal beings in ancient times during the journeys of Moses and Joshua. However, records of giants like the Rephaim date back to even earlier times. In Genesis chapter 14, there is a clear mention of this ancient race, to which not only Goliath, but many other biblical giants were connected. The Rephaim were feared giants who spread terror throughout the land of Canaan and also in the regions of Mesopotamia. Their fame reached the lands of Syria and the Canaanite peoples, and even the Egyptians knew of the presence of these imposing beings. Interestingly, to this day, some temples in Syria leave traces that link back to these giants, known as Rephaim, a name that carries a dark meaning, the living dead. These giants were not only physically imposing, but also represented a supernatural and enigmatic threat, leaving a legacy of fear and mystery wherever they went. Traces of these beings still echo in ancient traditions and mythologies. One intriguing curiosity about the tribe or race of giants known as the Rephaim is that the name Rephaim itself means the living dead. But why this association with the dead? The explanation is tied to their origin. Even before the flood, these giants of phenomenal stature and superhuman strength already inhabited the earth. What is most surprising is that after the flood, these beings mysteriously reappeared, as if they had somehow survived the great catastrophe. Genesis, chapter 14, describes them as an entire race, not a small group, but a vast community of giants ranging from 10 to 16 feet tall. The biblical account mentions that during the time of the flood, many giants, called Nephilim, inhabited the earth. These beings were the result of the union between the sons of God and the daughters of men, producing descendants who became the heroes and famous men of antiquity. Verse 4 of Genesis makes it clear that these giants existed both in those days, that is, before and during the flood, and afterwards, referring to the period following the Great Flood. This suggests that the presence of these colossal beings was not limited to the antediluvian era, but mysteriously extended beyond the flood. It is in this post-flood context that the Rephaim appear, inhabiting the regions of Canaan and Mesopotamia. The persistence of the Rephaim, even after the flood, is a mystery that challenges traditional explanations and raises questions about how these colossal beings reappeared, being feared by various ancient cultures. The race of giants to which Goliath and his 5 brothers belonged was the ancient and feared race of the Rephaim. This lineage of giants is first mentioned in Genesis chapter 14, where it is narrated that King Chedorlaomer and his alliance of kings defeated several of these giant tribes. Among them were the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh Kiriathaim. Although they were from different tribes, Zuzim, Emim, and Rephaim shared a common origin, being part of the same ethnicity of giants that haunted antiquity. One of the most notable giants of this race was Og, king of Bashan, a figure mentioned in the scriptures as one of the last giants of the Rephaim lineage. Unlike Goliath and his brothers, who were mercenary warriors, Og was a king, ruling not only over his people of giants, but also over common humans, descendants of the Canaanites. He ruled over the land of Bashan, a region known today as the Golan Heights. Og is described as the last king of the Rephaim race, the final ruler of these colossal beings who survived the flood. Moses and Joshua faced Og in their campaigns, and his defeat marked the end of an era. His imposing figure and reign over a mythical land like Bashan solidified his reputation as the last great monarch of the giants, ending the dynasty of the Rephaim, who dominated both by strength and terror. The Bible mentions the impressive stature of Og, king of Bashan, who belonged to the people of the Rephaim and ruled over a portion of the Canaanites. Og's height is recorded as approximately 9 cubits, a unit of measurement used by the Israelites. Each cubit, according to ancient Hebrew measures, was about 21 inches, which leads us to calculate that Og was around 16 feet tall. This height is confirmed by the size of his bed, which also measured 9 cubits in length. In addition to Og, during the time of King David, 5 other giants emerged, known for being ruthless warriors and mercenaries in the service of the Philistine people. However, it is a common mistake to believe that they were Philistines. The Bible itself clarifies that these giants were descendants of the Rephaim, a group distinct from the Philistines. The Philistines were descendants of Ham, ethnically mixed with the descendants of Japheth, and lived in the region of Canaan. If you would like to delve deeper into the origins of the Philistines, I recommend our last video, where we explore this topic in detail. However, it is important to remember that the biblical giants were not Philistines, but rather Rephaim, as were the Emim and Zamzumim, other giant peoples mentioned in the scriptures. Moving on, the 5 giants from the time of David begin with Goliath himself. Many people today try to downplay the importance of biblical texts, especially the story of David and Goliath, arguing that Goliath was only 8 or 9.5 feet tall. However, this view is mistaken because it uses incorrect measurements. The Israelite cubit, which was the unit of measure used at the time, was about 21 inches. According to the scriptures, Goliath was 6 cubits and a span tall. This means he stood at approximately 11.5 feet, much more imposing than many believe. Thanks to the half cubit, which was about 10.5 inches, we have an accurate measurement of this legendary warrior's height. Goliath was not alone. His brother, Ishbi-Benob, was also a feared giant of antiquity. Although we do not know his exact height, it is certain that he exceeded 10 feet. He may have been a bit shorter, or even the same height as Goliath, but what is clear is that he, like Goliath, possessed superhuman strength and stature that terrified their adversaries. The Bible reveals that Ishbi-Benob was armed with a gigantic, sharp and new sword, and he also carried a spear with a tip that weighed an impressive 13 pounds. Another giant, likely over 10 feet tall, was one of Goliath's brothers, known by the name of Saph. Saph also rose up against the people of Israel, but was eventually defeated and killed on the battlefield, just like the others. In addition to Saph, Goliath had another brother named Lami. In a battle against the Philistines, Elhanan, son of Jare-Oregim, a weaver from Bethlehem, defeated Lami, the brother of Goliath of Gath. Lami wielded a spear whose craftsmanship resembled a weaver's beam, an extremely large object. To hold such a weapon, Lami would have needed to be at least about 11.5 feet tall. The imposing nature of these giants, with their massive weapons, not only inspired fear, but also reinforces the notion that facing them required extraordinary courage. They were not just battle figures, but represented an overwhelming threat, one that could only be overcome through faith and extraordinary determination, as David demonstrated. Among Goliath's brothers, there was another giant who, although not mentioned by name in the Bible, is described solely by his stature, and certainly that height was terrifying. The fact that his height is highlighted and not his name suggests that he might have been even taller than Goliath and his brothers. It is estimated that this giant stood between 12 and 12.5 feet tall, or perhaps even more. It is worth noting that giants contemporary to Joshua and Moses exceeded 13 feet. belonging to the feared race of the Rephaim. In light of this, it is possible that this mysterious giant, whose presence looms over the biblical texts, also reached this impressive height of over 13 feet, making him an even more formidable and intriguing figure in history. Another intriguing fact about this unnamed giant is that he had a unique physical characteristic: 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. This peculiarity may have set him apart from the other giants or brought him even closer to his unusual origins. The biblical text reveals this detail, distinguishing him from Goliath and his brothers. These giants, with their colossal statures and uncommon physical traits, are part of an ancient and mysterious lineage. If you wish to explore more about these enigmatic beings from antiquity, we have other videos available. Keep following us for more fascinating revelations. May God bless you, and see you soon.